concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Happy Sunday afternoon to you. It's going to be a happy Sunday afternoon for me. I'd like to say that if you're a true nerd, then you use one of these little measuring cups as a shot glass. Yeah. OXO. Slanted measuring cup. Holds up to 2 ounces. You know exactly what you're getting. Very nice. Oh, Jeff Captain FPV is not hearing the music. Jeff, the live stream has started. He must be behind. He must be behind. Welcome, you guys. Happy Sunday afternoon for you, or Sunday evening if you're in the EU. This is technically the European stream. That's why we do it on Sunday afternoons, when us Americans are out playing football and flying our drones. But it's a beautiful day here, but you wouldn't know it because I am in the broadcast studio with the blackout curtains and the insulated walls set aside from the world. No interruptions here except my kids stomping around upstairs, of course. Don't worry, they know what's in store for them if they interrupt my stream. The only thing that can interrupt my stream, apparently, is Comcast screwing up. For the time being, we're looking good, but I am happy to tell you that you remember that there were interruptions in my stream recently. In fact, one of the streams that got interrupted was the news stream where me and Blunty were talking about the new Avatar goggles, and people speculated was somebody denial of servicing me. It was a bit of a joke, but it turns out I finally got Comcast to come out here yesterday, And the guy said that there was an open ticket for a problem with the line somewhere out in the world that they should be fixed today, theoretically. I don't know, but hopefully we'll have a solid stream with no interruptions. Let's find out. Why aren't I out flying? Yeah, good question. Good question. I was searching through my closet today, looking for something to wear on stream. Race Day Quads, why did you get rid of this shirt? This is the best. This is like the best FPV shirt in existence. Why did Race Day Quads... Bring it back, Race Day Quads. Oh, Aqua World wants to know who the winner of the TX16S is. Oh, my goodness. Are we doing this? Aqua World. First of all, I have to go find the giveaway. I don't know why it seemed... I guess it's good that people care about giveaways because it means they care about my content. The giveaway is winner. Please tell me I did this. If I forgot to do this, I'm going to feel like a real dumbass. The giveaway winner is always posted in a pinned comment. There we go. Right here. At the top of the video. Right here. Oh, there we go. We get the face cam turned on. Huh? Where's my face cam? Why is my NVIDIA cam not turning on? Huh. Am I here? Where's it? Oh. Is NVIDIA broadcast not working? Hey. I gotta... Hang on a second. We're having a technical issue. Yeah, so anyway, the winner is posted right here. These are the giveaway winners. So all good there. Camera. Microphone. Camera. What happened? Did it break? Yeah, camera. There we go. NVIDIA, you let me down. All right, we're good now. We're good now. Yeah, so that is how I do it. When I post... Now, I realize that I do sometimes take a while, take like a week or two sometimes to post the winners. But when the winners are posted, that's where they'll be. And they have been posted, so there you go. Let's get to it. Here's what we're doing. I'm going to answer your questions in case you're new here. And if you're not new here, just sing along. I'm going to answer your questions here in the chat. If you want to make sure I get to your question, you should hit the $sign down here and leave a super chat. And I will also be monitoring these beautiful, beautiful sausages over here in my my Discord server. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Give them a chance to post some GIFs. Hi-ya. Can I get a hi-ya? Okay. I want to start this with a question that was it actually was posted before the stream began by Arnold Henning. Arnold Henning posted this. I'm just going to let these guys keep posting GIFs. Oh, that's one of my favorites right there. That's one of my favorites right there. I'm going to, this question was posted by Arnold Henning, and the question was, hope all's well, I want to get into long-range cinematic FPV for as cheap as possible. Would you recommend analog or digital video transmission, and if analog, how strong the VTX? Another question, would you rather wait for Fat Shark's digital system, or would you recommend DJI? That's the question we're going to tackle here, while the GIFs keep, and I do say GIF, and I will brook no argument, while the GIFs keep flying for just a couple more minutes. Yeah, what do you get when you become a patron of Bardwell's, other than just the satisfaction of knowing that you've, paid for services rendered? Well, you get to post GIFs on my live stream at the beginning of the stream. That's it, pretty much. The first question. Arnold Henning wants to get into long range for as cheap as possible. Okay, as soon as you say as cheap as possible, the answer is analog. Period. Because every single digital system is more expensive than almost any analog system. If you tried to spend as much money as you possibly could, you could almost make an analog system cost as much as a DJI system or a HD0 system. If you think about it, an HD0 VTX, HD0 1 watt VTX, VTX please, VTX, HD0 1 watt VTX coming in at a price of $100. Okay, that sounds reasonable. Oh, but you got to buy a camera. HD0 Runcam Micro camera. $50. $150 for HD0 just to get in the door. Oh, and you got to buy an antenna. Does the 1 watt come with an antenna? I'm not sure about that. It might. So $150, $160. That's what you're looking at for a digital system like DJI or HD0. It's almost impossible to make an analog system be that expensive, although you could probably get close. You could probably get like a $45 for like a really expensive camera, $45-50 for an expensive VTX, and another like $20 for an antenna, and you're still not quite there. But an analog system, you can get a very, very solid analog system for much less. Let's try to break that down. And one thing we can do is we can go to my website, and I'm just going to look at what the reason I make this website is not just for you, but also for me. Why is my website loading so slow? Is my internet down? Internet's solid. Oh, what's going on? That took way too long. Let's look at 5-inch freestyle drones. This website is fpvknowitall.com. That's my website. And I've got cameras. So this is out of date. The Foxeer Aero Micro Pro is my inexpensive camera. It is basically, it's the only analog camera that was available for $20. And I left it on the list because it was just such a good value, but it has finally gone out of stock and you really just can't get it anymore. So I believe I've got a card in right now to change that to the Ratel. Yeah, remove Aero Micro, replace with Baby Ratel. So let's look at that. That's going to be our choice. And I think it's $25, which is still a pretty good deal in this day and age. Yeah, $26. So for a camera, Caddx Baby Ratel. Excellent camera for $26. It's the go-to if you're trying to save money. Now, as far as video transmitters go, this is a tougher one. Like the Rush Tank Solo. Now, that's an expensive video transmitter, as video transmitters go, at $50. But it is absolutely worth every penny, especially if you're trying to do long range. It'll legit put out 1+ watt of I think it's actually 1.4 watts or 1.5 watts is the actual output. It's 1+ watts. And Rush makes good stuff. Like, I would take a 1 watt Rush video transmitter over like a 2 watt AKK video transmitter because I just feel like the Rush is going to give you more solid transmission. Mach 2, Mach 3 combo. Let's see, Mach 3 video transmitter. That's solid. It's made by AKK. It's not bad. Up to 1 watt. So you have a lot of choices. What's this new Foxeer? Yeah, I know the one, Jekli. Where can I find, there's this new Foxeer one. It's 2 watts. I'm not going to be able to find it, though, unfortunately. I saw it on Facebook. Is there a link to it anywhere out there in the world? 2.5 watts? There we go. 2.5 watt analog VTX. What are they calling it? They've just released it, though. And that sure does look like it's made by Rush, doesn't it? It sure looks like that's made by Rush, which would be a good thing in my mind, for the record. That would be a good thing. It looks like Rush manufactured this. So, like, I would get something like this for $50, and I would get a camera. The Aero Micro is a fine camera and a good antenna, and be good to go. And you're gonna be spending less than $100 for the whole kit. Easy peasy. Now, if you take out price as a consideration, then the question is, what do you consider to be long range? And if your definition of long range is less than 13 kilometers, I think DJI is going to give you the best experience. At least today. However, it has to be said, with the new HD0 goggles in the works, with DJI V3 in the works, and with the new Avatar system just getting ready to come out, I think you should wait. But if price is your concern, analog's the way to go. All right. Let's see. There was another question. Tyler Mathalon wants to know, when is your bundle going to be back in stock? Tyler's talking about this bundle. I have good news. This bundle has been out of stock because we are updating to V2 of the bundle. And I have good news. Oh, it's what? Page is not loading. Cool. GetFPV's website is a little slow too. Right now, they just did a new back end. So I have good news. If we look here on my, look what I'm working on. Look what I'm working on here. The reason the bundle has been out of stock is that we're updating it. And that means that it is coming. So it probably will release this week, depending on when these videos get edited. They are mostly edited. I got a little bit more work to do. But so that's coming back, and it's going to be updated with new parts and, you know, just generally updated. So good news. Thank you for asking. Let's see here. Continuing with the questions. Marco Bencomo says, it has been a few years since the development of introductory goggles. What's your recommendations for affordable goggles? Yeah, so not to sound like a broken record, but once again, anytime somebody asks for product recommendations, I go to the Ultimate FPV shopping list, and at least that's where I start. Here's a section on goggles and antennas for FPV drones, analog goggles. The cheapest worth having is the Eachine EV800D, or maybe we should update that to the DM. Should we update this to the DM? Is there a reason? I can't remember. Chat, tell me if there's a reason why the DM is worse than the D. I think we should update it to the DM, though. And then if you're trying to get, the next step up would be the Cobra X, which is closer to 250 bucks. So the monitor detaches, yeah. Is the D still available? Haha, that's a funny sentence to take out of context. No, the D is still available. It is still available. Out of stock. Out of stock. Hard to know. Hard to know with Banggood whether it's actually in stock or not. No. Okay, so only Race Day Quad still has the D. I don't know about that. The Eachine EV800D or DM is the best starter. Comes out about $100. Comes in at about $100. Carl Berman wants me to add a 6-7 inch long range stuff to my site. Yep. So the challenge, Carl, is it usually takes between 2 weeks and a month to add a new page. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but like, first of all, everybody working on, so like Ciati is helping a lot. I've got a couple other people who are helping work on the site with me. And it just takes time to sit down and think, because we don't want to just sit down and be like, I don't know, just grab a 7-inch, the first one that comes to mind. We like to do research and try and make sure we're making good recommendations. Not everybody will agree with the recommendations, but we'd like to make sure that we're making what we feel like are good recommendations. So it takes about a month to create a new page. So we like recently just added the Tiny Whoop page. And we're now working on a Cinewhoop page. That's what's currently in the works. After the Cinewhoop page, I don't know what we should do next. I'd like to do toothpicks, maybe 7-inch long range. I'm not sure. But the other challenge is that once we put the page up, we have to keep it up to date, and that also is a challenge. So my goal is to do a good job on the stuff that's here, and I don't want to focus so much on creating new content for the website that we let the other content stagnate. To be honest with you, I wish that there were more people who were excited about keeping this website up to date. Like, I'm excited about it, but there are a lot of pages. And so it would be nice to have I wish there was a way to get community feedback on this stuff. I don't know if I could, like, put a pop-up or something. Because people look at this and they go, oh, well, clearly you should have this product. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. I don't know. But it's really hard to keep up with all of this stuff and keep, although we do our best, to keep it all up to date and wonderful. Yeah, get in touch with me. Okay. It's a good looking page. I like that layout. Alrighty, continuing to take questions. Let's take a question not about, that somehow doesn't lead back to my website. Okay? A lot of people don't like the DM. Interesting. That's interesting. A lot of jokes about the D. Fair enough. Fair enough. Luis Me FPV asks a very good question. How can you fly dives and split S with a whoop without using acro mode? I struggle to dive the gates in stab mode. Yeah, no, that's 100% right. You can't really do good dive gates and split S's in stab mode because you can't invert. And that is why a lot of tiny whoop racers are switching to flying acro mode. There isn't an answer except to switch to acro mode and fly in acro mode. There you go. That's the answer. Stab mode is angle mode. Aqua World. Stab is angle mode. Auto level mode. AVIGZ. Avigs wants to know, what game controller style radio would you recommend at the moment? Currently using a TX16S with Crossfire, and I'm a pincher. If you're really committed to Crossfire, the Tango 2 is the way to go. The Tango 2 Pro is not really, I mean, buy it if you want it. The only difference with the Tango 2 Pro is the folding sticks. That's fine. They're not mandatory, though. The sticks are fine. If you're sold on Crossfire, though, the Tango 2 is a great way to go. No external module needed. The downside of the Tango 2 is that it runs Freedom TX. And so you will not be able to quickly take advantage of all of the latest stuff that's being added in Edge TX, for example. If you care about being on the cutting edge, get a radio that can run Edge TX, in which case the X-Lite Pro would be a fine choice, but you would need to have an external module to run Crossfire. I'm going to take some super chats in just a second. But before I do that, I want to get some questions from the Discord server and say thank you to my patrons. Patreon is a website where you can subscribe to me for as little as $2 a month or more if you feel like I've earned it. There's a link down in the video description. And if you feel like throwing a couple bucks in my hat, that's the way to do it. And one of the benefits is you get to join my Discord server. And then I sometimes read your questions on stream and just talk to you the rest of the time, too. I talk to everybody, but I pay just a little bit more attention to the Discord server since those people are literally paying my bills. Seems fair. We got a question here from Orbital Period, who says, I've had this problem trying to tune my quad. When I do high rate rolls, one of my motors maxes out and I get a big yawing movement. I tried increasing dynamic idle, but that only helped up to a certain point. After replacing the motor, I think it's an ESC problem. Could it be something else before I spend the money to replace my ESC? And Orbital Period has here a photo of the Blackbox log. Orbital, would be cool if you upload the actual Blackbox log, although it's possible that by the time you hear this and upload the log, the stream will have moved on. In the meantime, we can look here at this image that you've posted, and we can see that motor, the blue motor, whichever one that is maxing out. And when a motor maxes out, the term for that is saturation, okay? They say that the motor has reached saturation. Why do they say that? That's just what they say. When the motor maxes out and cannot go any higher, the quadcopter has reached the limit of its authority. And so I want you to imagine a quadcopter that is flat, right? And flat and level. And so basically, all 4 of the motors are outputting the same RPM. Now, they're not literally outputting the same RPM because some motors will have a slightly higher kV, some will have a slightly lower kV, some will have, so they'll make slightly more or less thrust based on just sort of random variations in the prop and so forth. And so I got the Blackbox log orbital. So there'll be a little bit of variation, but more or less all of the motors are at the same output percent. And then as you raise the throttle, the motors will speed up. And eventually, let's say we've got one motor that is like higher, significantly higher kV than the other motors. So as we raise the throttle and we're just in a straight, flat climb, as we do that, one of the motors will hit 100% first, okay? Actually, it would need to be a motor with lower kV than the others. So let's say we've got a motor with significantly lower kV than the others, and that motor reaches 100%. At that point, the quadcopter cannot, or the flight controller cannot increase the output of the other 3 motors. Because if the goal is to keep the quad in a flat climb without rotating in any direction, then the motors have to have roughly matched output. And if one of the motors hits 100%, the others have to sort of back off. It's like if you were in a 3-legged race where you're kind of tied to 3 other people. Well, you can only go as fast as the slowest guy, right? So if you have a motor that's maxing out, the whole rest of the quad will have to lay back, and that limits the authority of the quad. Now imagine instead of a flat climb, you're doing a spin. And you're doing a spin, and the right 2 motors speed up and the left 2 motors slow down. The fastest that quad can spin is going to be limited by whichever of the motors maxes out first. Now, when this happens in a controlled way, one motor maxes out, and all of the other motors just kind of balance themselves out and everything is fine. But when this happens in an uncontrolled way, you can get a sudden like yaw movement like you're describing. So let's go back. Let's take a look at this Blackbox log, which you have thankfully provided, and we're going to look and see if we can find where this happens. Where do we have a timestamp by chance? We do not have a timestamp. Well, I'll just look through it and find it. I mean, and in the chat, if you give me the timestamp while I'm looking, I'll appreciate that. Let's go to, let's just look at the motors here. Oh, here we go. This is it right here. So I can see the front right motor maxing out here. So notice that as the front right motor maxes out, look what the other 3 motors do immediately. The other 3 motors immediately back off, trying to compensate and balance the thrust from this motor. So what causes that motor to max out? I see you must be mode 1 because your throttle is on the... Are you mode 1? Mode 2. Why are you pitching forward? Are you doing a front roll? Okay. I'm confused. No, that's throttle. You're doing a front flip, rather. Here we go, full pitch forward. When we go full pitch forward, we should see the rear motors go to full. What? I'm so confused. I'm so confused. Why? What is happening? Why are all the motors going down? I guess he lowered throttle. So he lowered throttle, so all the motors go down. But here we go. We're starting to pitch forward. Now I see. Now the rear motors speed up. Rear motors speed up. Now we're pitching forward. Notice that it's very interesting to me. the front right motor goes to 0, it idles. And the front right motor now is significantly lower than the others. Now we're rolling forward or pitching forward. Let's get the gyro in here as well, so we can see how the quad is moving. I want the gyro to be. Can I move it down? Can I swap it? Yeah, okay. So here we can see the pitch axis gyro. So we begin to pitch forward. We're pitching forward. And I think we're going to see things fall apart when you start to recenter the stick. No. We're still full pitch forward. That's weird. So, oh, that's really weird. Normally, when you have a problem during a flip or roll, it's when you start to recenter the stick that it falls apart. When the motors go from idle to full. So what's interesting to me is the quad begins to rotate, and then in the rotation, the motors basically start to slow down. But the front right motor is coasting the whole time. It's not at 0, but it's very low, and all the others are sort of flipping along. And then it goes to max, and the whole thing falls apart. I think I know what happened. So I think what has happened is that the front right motor stalled. The front right motor was coasting along at low throttle for whatever reason. Why would it be at low throttle? Well, if for some reason it was making more thrust than the other motors, it would go to idle while the other motors sort of dance around it. Okay? So motor the front right motor is making the most thrust, and it goes to idle. But then right here, the front right motor stalls. How do we know that? Look right here. Why did the other 3 motors slowly decrease their thrust until they roughly equal the front right motor, while the front right motor stays low? I think the reason for that is that the thrust being put out by the front right motor was originally large, and so the other motors... No, it would have to go up. No, it's backwards. The thrust being put out by the front right motor would be low. It would be high, and the other motors would rise to adjust it. Yes. And then as the thrust being put out by the front right motor dropped, the other motors come down to match it and balance it out. But then the front right motor stalls. And as the front right motor stalls, we see the gyro right here. Look, do you see that the pitch and the yaw gyro now start to lose it? This is the point where the front right motor stalled and stuttered. And in response, the flight controller pushes that motor to speed up now to try to restabilize the quad. But it doesn't succeed. Right here, the front right motor stops entirely. And then picks up again here. And then everything gets back under control. Whenever you see a motor go to 100% like this, with the throttle at 0%, that's a motor that's stalled. All right. So there's a problem with the front right motor. That's the bottom line. Now, if we look right here, throughout the rest of the flight, we do not see any other signs that the front right motor has a problem. Like if we saw that the light blue, the cyan motor was consistently higher or consistently lower than the other 3, that would be like a sign that that motor had a problem. But we really don't. The only time we see that is when we go down to 0 throttle. When we're at 0 throttle, often the front right motor is coasting along here at the bottom while the others kind of dance around it. And that tells us that that motor is making more thrust than the other 3. That's kind of weird. Well, usually a messed up motor makes less thrust. But for the most part, we don't see any symptoms of a problem. But the bottom line is right here, that front right motor stuttered and stopped. And that's usually either a bad motor or a bad ESC. It could be a loose prop, Ralk FPV points out. It could be a loose prop. Now, he changed the motor. Presumably the prop is tight. if your idle speed was too low, it might cause this, but I think he said he raised the idle speed. I think it's time to think about changing the ESC, although I'm not 100% sure about that. Alrighty. There we go. Haven't done a Blackbox breakdown in a long time. Simiot3 wants to know, any new info about the Avatar goggles? I can tell you that Flywoo has reached out to me and asked if I want to review a new bind and fly with the Avatar system in it. I don't know if any public information has been released, so I'm not going to give you any more info about it. I don't want to accidentally spoil it any more than I already have. But that absolutely confirms that Flywoo has this system and is selling it. It's not just, well, Fat Shark, the day of the release, Flywoo started taking pre-orders for the Avatar goggles, and I asked Fat Shark, I asked Alan, you know, what's the deal? And he was like, oh, I don't know, man. Oh, Chinese companies, who knows what they're doing? But he seemed to be implying that they didn't actually have the goggle. Or that he did, if they did, he didn't know about it. But Flywoo is offering, I was like, yes, I absolutely would like to. Anybody who can get me a working Avatar system in my hands so that I can test it and review it, I'm down. Let's do it. They posted it on Instagram. Oh, okay, so it's been released. Let's take one more from the Discord before we do the Super Chats. Ton has a question. I think we're not going to be able to get you on screen there, Ton. Ton has a question. Ton says, I've built an Apex 5 and I cannot get the camera to center. So check this out. This is a common problem that a lot of people are not aware of. So here is Ton's build. And the picture that you're seeing here, Ton has moved this camera all the way to the side using washers. So you're looking at this and you're going, it's off center. It's off center because he's trying to fix the fact that it's off center. Here is the actual image that Ton is seeing in their camera. And do you see that we've got the left standoff here and the right standoff? The camera needs to be moved to the right, but it's already as far right as it can go. So the issue here is that the sensor inside your camera is sometimes not centered up or not correctly aligned relative to the lens. And so even when you center your camera, the image that you see may not be centered on your frame. And this isn't always true. But in a case like this, Ton, there isn't anything you can do to fix this except switch the camera and cross your fingers. It may be that your camera is not quite square, possibly. But the reason I think this is interesting is that people go to a lot of trouble to set the up tilt of their camera to be how they want it to be. But I have seen cases where a person had 3 builds, 3 of the same camera, and the visible up tilt was not the same between them because inside the camera, the sensor was slightly misaligned between the 3 of them. So if they set the camera to exactly 37 degrees of up tilt, what they actually saw inside the goggles was not consistent. And I think it's, I think of that whenever people, they're like, how many degrees of up tilt do you fly? 22.5. I use a protractor every time I set it to exactly 22.5 degrees. It's like, well, you know what? If you're doing that based on your lens or based on the body of your camera, you may not be getting the actual consistent up tilt that you're looking for. And at the end of the day, probably should just base it on how the quad flies and how it feels when you fly it. I don't have an answer for you there. I don't think there is a great answer. If the T-Rex camera is off center consistently, like maybe you could find a way to push it forward so you don't see you don't want to see those those standoffs. And then the fact that it's off by a few millimeters probably won't affect you at all while you're flying. Yeah, move the camera forward. That's what I would do, and then it won't matter. All right, let's get these super chats. Thank you. Oh my God, we're 40 minutes into the stream and I haven't read a single super chat. Bad streamer. Bad streamer. At least I didn't throw a cat. Anybody who gets that references. Let's get a super chat here from, I don't know how to say that letter. Oyvind Johansson. Thank you for 100 Norwegian kroner. I'm strongly considering buying the DJI goggles, flying analog now, but I really want to upgrade before an incoming trip. Should I wait for V3 or buy now? I can't. So thank you for your super chat, first of all. Really I appreciate your support. How can I answer this question? You really want to upgrade before an upcoming trip. Should you wait for the V3? Well, will the V3 come out before your upcoming trip? I don't know. I don't know when your trip is, and I don't know when the V3 is coming out. If you want to upgrade before this trip, then you have to buy the DJI V2. If you want to wait for the V3, you may not be able to upgrade before your trip. I'm not sure how to... Like, should I wait for the V3? Yes, right now, you shouldn't buy, if you have a working set of goggles right now, you probably shouldn't buy a goggle right now because there's so many things in the works. DJI V3, HC0 goggle, avatar system. There's so many things in the works that you probably shouldn't spend $500 to $700 on a new goggle today. You should wait 1 to 2 months to see how things settle out. But, like, on the other hand, if you've got this trip coming and you really, really want to have a digital system, then you're just going to buy the V2. And then you may end up... But I think you should just stick with analog and wait. That's my advice. Asif Kaklon, thank you for 15 of this currency, the symbol of which I don't recognize. Thank you for 15 of them, though. I want to make my Flywoo Explorer a better freestyle. What do you recommend to do? Oof. Here's the thing, Asif. The Flywoo Explorer, like if you want to make it better for freestyle, you could put the iFlight Zing motors on it that come on the iFlight Chimera 4-inch. They're a higher kV motor and they're going to give you more power. But the problem is that the Explorer frame is designed to be lightweight and it is not very durable. So if you fly the Explorer like a freestyle build, you will quickly break it. And it's just not a good choice. So what I would suggest doing if you really want to make it better is consider moving the electronics to a frame more like the iFlight Chimera and get slightly higher kV motors or maybe even slightly larger motors. But the Explorer just isn't good for free. Not that you can't freestyle it. Obviously, anybody can freestyle anything. The problem is that it isn't designed with a lot of power and punch in mind, right? That's number one problem. And if you solve that problem, then you'll run into problem number two. It isn't designed with durability in mind. It's designed with lightweight in mind. And you'll just break it a lot. So I would say build a different quadcopter if you want a 4-inch freestyle rig. But if you want, the first thing I would do to make the Explorer better at freestyle is probably go with a little bit higher kV motors. Sebi D FPV, thank you for $5 Canadian. Sebi, let's see, got a question on the Discord server. Sebi D is having LED strip problems. Thank you for being a patron, Sebi, and thank you for your support, super chat. I'm having LED strip problems on my Betaflight STM32 F7X2. The board name is Mamba F722I2C. I know the answer. LED strip is not working. Here's your problem, Sebi. I got you. I just helped somebody with this problem earlier this week. Maybe, I guess it wasn't you or you wouldn't be asking. The Diatone Mamba flight controllers have built-in LED controllers, so you don't have to use LED strip. There's literally a button on it. There's a button on it that just outputs different colors, and you just press the button and change the LED settings. But there is a solder bridge you have to solder. If you don't solder this solder bridge, LED strip won't work. So you need to solder this solder bridge like shown here to get LED strip working. Sebi, that's the answer. Let me just check and see. Let's just see if he says, oh no, I already did that. He says the solder bridge is done. Crap. Well, damn. Really thought that was going to do it. So if I had a flight controller and LED strip wasn't working and the solder bridge was done, the next thing I would do is I would go into Betaflight. 1 second. I would go into Betaflight and we're going to look in the configuration tab and we're going to make sure that LED strip is enabled, which on yours it probably is. Once LED strip is enabled, the next thing I would do is I would go to the CLI and I would type resource show and I would look for the LED strip, not LED. That's LED. That's not what you're looking for. Hang on, let me zoom in on this a little bit so you can see it easier. I would search for the LED strip resource. Right here, BO3 LED strip. If you don't see the LED strip resource in there, then the LED function is not working for whatever reason, like there's a conflict or something. And I would just double check that that's there. So if that is not there, it means that even though you went into configuration and turned on LED strip, there's something preventing it from working. Sebi says that BO3, it says that it is working and on BO3. So that means that the flight controller agrees that you've enabled the LED function. Can you do this? Can you change that solder bridge and try the diatone method? Try the diatone controller and see if the LEDs are even working? That's a thought. And do they work? Sebi says they did. Did they work? He's going to say they did work. Didn't work. Oh, okay, good. Okay, so either your LEDs are screwed up or your LEDs are, the LED strip is broken. Is it a programmable LED strip? Or is it just a DC LED strip? Maybe the voltage going to the LED strip is insufficient. It's nice to know that it's not a Betaflight problem, though. What is the diatone method? Brandon Beans asked. Brandon, on the diatone flight controllers, at the four corners of the flight controller, there are 4 LED plugs. And there's an LED button next to the bootloader button. The diatone has a built-in LED controller where you just push that button and it makes the colors. And if you don't want to screw around with Betaflight LED config, you can just use the diatone LED controller. Check your wiring on the LED strip. Make sure you're using the in and not the out. You know? These are some things to think about. All right. But I would say if it doesn't work with the diatone LED controller, then there's something wrong with the LEDs themselves or the wiring. Oh, you are using the SW601 diatone LED. Well, it doesn't get simpler than that. Okay, so you're using this exact LED. It's plugged into this plug. I would bridge it for motherboard LED. And then I would press that LED button to see what happens. And if they don't work, it's the diatone LED, it's the diatone LED controller, it's the diatone flight controller. If they don't work, then either your flight controller or your LED is messed up. That's the bottom line. And I'd swap the LEDs, try buying new LEDs. If they still don't work, then the flight controller has some issue, but that seems less likely than a messed up LED to me. All right, continuing. Quadfather, thank you for a $5 super chat. Thanks for not selling out with NFTs. How did you get into FPV and go from a Wi-Fi engineer to an influencer? I don't like being called an influencer, but I probably am. I got into FPV. I got into RC when a friend of mine, I should really thank him someday. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. He came over to a get together at my house. He brought his new DJI Phantom, and I flew it, and I thought it was the coolest damn thing. And it reminded me that when I was 15 years old, my uncle gave me an RC plane, and I flew it, and I thought it was the coolest damn thing. And then I crashed it, and that was the end of it. It was an old balsa wood plane. This was in the days before foamies. Let's see, I was 15. That would have been 1980, 1990. Yikes. So I got back into planes with a flight test Bixler and a Turnigy 9X controller. And I started watching flight test, and they started getting into FPV. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I got into multi-rotors. I built a multi-rotor. And eventually I started learning about... I wanted to learn more about the PID controller and Blackbox logging. And so I started posting on RC groups, and I made a thread on RC groups where I said, if you post your Blackbox log, I will study it and analyze it. Because I had been an instructor. I had been a classroom instructor for about 10 or 12 years, teaching computer networking stuff. I did computer networking troubleshooting and classroom instruction. So my way of processing information and learning was to talk to other people and teach about it. And that RC Groups thread, is it still, probably still exists. Does it still exist? Yes, sir. Right here. Wow. 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 Oh, man. Wow. Oh, wow. That's so cool. August 19th, 2015. This is really literally the beginning of my career. Not the beginning of my experience in RC, but literally the very beginning of my career. Actually, no, I take it back. It's an earlier thread. There's an earlier thread without, that's the video responses thread. I don't know. I've got a submission. No. Dang. Well, it's pretty close. There is an earlier thread where I'm doing analysis on RC groups, but that's pretty close to the beginning. In order to help more people learn to analyze Blackbox data, I'm going to start a thread where I post video analyses of other people's logs. Post your log file. I will take a stab at analyzing it. Oh, wait. Is this the original thread? June 2015. Yes, we're going back in time. But this is after I started my Patreon. No, I didn't start my Patreon for a while. And I originally came up with I thought my business name was going to be The Drone Racing Engineer. I already had a fair amount of views on YouTube when I came up with that name. It didn't stick, but I'm running a custom version of CleanFlight that Boris B is working on. That was the beginning of Betaflight. Wow. Wow. Let's see. Joshua Bardwell, registered user. Can I see my posts? Find all articles. That's not an article. Well, anyway. There we go. Find all posts by Joshua Bardwell. how can I go to the last page? These are, what are these? 2016. These are obviously not chronological. Damn it. Well, all right. I don't want to spend any more time digging around for it, but that's how I got started. That's how I got started. And, you know, slowly progressed from there. Anyway. Said you joined in 2014. Roborito suggests I went back and modified the post to include the Patreon link. That's possible. That's possible. Archimedes. Oh, Archimedes. We should test JB by asking him to name all the OSI layers without Googling it. I definitely was a time in my life when I could have done that. Let's see. Physical, data link, network, transport. This is where application, session, presentation. Boom! Except the session and the presentation layer really doesn't exist. Some stuff you never forget, baby. Some stuff you never forget. Did I get it right? I think I got it right. Anybody who doubts my credentials and that I used to work in computer networking, but a lot of people watching this have no idea what I just did. Anybody who doubts my credentials, though. Michael, thank you for 50 Swedish kroner in the super chat. Still working our way through these super chats. Thank you for 50 Swedish kroner. On Beta Flight 4.3, when trying to launch the drone, it jumps about 50 centimeters, rotators, and disarms by itself. That is a runaway problem, Michael. And the solution to that problem is so straightforward that I literally have a copy-paste macro to solve it. Here it is, Michael in Sweden. Here it is the solution. Pause the screen, go through these steps. That will almost certainly fix whatever is going on with you. Thank you for your donation. T. Lanfer, thank you for a €5 donation in the super chat. Any point in upgrading an X9D to the popular TX16S or something? Since OpenTX is the same, is there anything other than the quality or gimbals is worth the upgrade? If you have an X9D that you're happy with, I don't think there's a huge reason to upgrade to a TX16S. TX16S has a larger color screen. It can do widgets on screen. That's nice. But as far as hardware goes, the X9D is a solid radio. And especially if you've got the upgraded M9 gimbals in it, like, if you're just like, yeah, I want a new radio. I like the colors of the TX16S. In terms of just pure build quality and performance, the TX16S, I think the X9D is a great radio. A lot of people want to upgrade to the same radio that all their friends have, or you want something new, you know? Like you got an old set of running shoes and they're fine, but you're looking at those new shiny shoes and you're like, oh, I'm going to get some new shoes today. I don't know. Like you buy things just because you want to buy things. I'm not telling you not to buy it. If you buy it, use my affiliate link. I'm just saying the X9D is a solid radio, especially if you have M9 gimbals in it. There's way better places to spend your money that will have a much bigger impact than switching to the TX16S. There you go. Swift69, thanks for a $5 super chat. I'm working on a 2S 3-inch build, trying to decide what motor size to go with. Thinking of 1103, the seen 1104 and 1203. Would they be too large? So the question is, what style of build are you going for? Are you going for something like a toothpick? Or are you going for something more like Are you going for something more? So, because 3-inch props are in this weird middle ground. Like, we could get a 3-inch build like, well, where's a 3-inch? Like the Avant Quad's Avio 3, okay? This is a relatively heavy 3-inch build. It's still under 250 grams, right? But compared to a toothpick, which is going to come in at 100, 125 grams, this is relatively heavy. It's more of a freestyle build. What motors do they come with? Brother Hobby 1504 motors, right? That's relatively big motors. On the other hand, if you're going for a toothpick or an ultralight build, which I'm guessing you are because you're thinking like 1103, 1203, that's different. Now, when you talk about toothpicks, I would say you pretty much have to go pay attention to what Bob Ruge says over at FPV Cycle. In many ways, he defined the category of toothpicks. And I don't want to take anything away from people who are working in the toothpick category before him and continue after him, but he is absolutely an authoritative and definitive voice in this category. And he says that you want to be using like the 13 millimeter motor. And he will make an argument for why you would do that. So I don't think that a 1203 would be too large. And pretty much no matter what you're doing. If you're doing a heavier 3-inch build, then even a 14 or 15 millimeter motor would be fine. If you're doing a toothpick style build, a 12 or 13 millimeter is fine. And I also want to share, thank you so much to Boom FPV in the Discord who posted this. This is this from Chris Rosser? Who made this? It's Chris Rosser. This is a suggestion from Chris Rosser about motor volume versus prop diameter. This is not definitive, but it should help you know if you're in the ballpark. For a 3-inch prop diameter, Chris Rosser says something like a 1404 is about ideal. There are some sizes that are not on here, like there isn't a 13 millimeter motor on here. But, you know, you can see that something like a 13 to a 15 millimeter motor would be in the ballpark of correct. Why do toothpicks usually have smaller 11 and 12 millimeter motors? I think it's because they're so lightweight that it gets away with it. Yeah. But that gets you in the ballpark. John Goblin reminds us that this is for tri-blades. This is for tri-blades, not for bi-blades. So bi-blades, you could use a little bit smaller motor. Swift69, hope that was helpful. Joe Rocket thank you for a $5 Joe Rocket ATC. Joe Rocket ATC. Thank you for a $5 super chat. How does the stick length on the Zorro compare to the Jumper T Pro? Why don't more radios have removable sticks like the DJI? Well, I can answer your question. Hang on. Hang on. Oh. Here we go. Okay. Oh, yeah. Flip-flops and shorts. That's right. Join my OnlyFans for more. So, well, let me get a ruler out. Can I measure it with a ruler? On the Zorro, the actual length of the stick is about 23 millimeters. Now, bear in mind, this is with the sticks all the way in. You could just unscrew them to extend them. And on the T Pro, the stick length is identical. So the actual length of the stick is identical between them. On both of them, you can screw it out to extend the length by at least a centimeter. So the other thing that's different about them, and it's going to be difficult to show you this on the stream, But on the Zorro, they are recessed into... You really can't see this at all. On the Zorro, they are recessed into it more. Let me see if I can show you. So the Zorro sticks feel shorter because they're down into the surface a little bit more. Whereas this one's centered. This one's centered. Okay. So if you look at the left stick on both of them, on the Zorro, it's recessed a little bit. Anyway, so it feels a little shorter on the Zorro. Does that answer? I hope that answers your question. Why don't people have removable sticks? I don't know. Probably because it's expensive to machine them. That's my guess. I got to tell you guys, I've been using the Zorro recently. We're using the Zorro in the updated JB budget build. And I really dig the ergonomics on the Zorro. Like, I still am not going to switch to a gamepad style radio, but the way it fits my hand is really good. The only thing I hate about the Zorro, two things. Number one, the battery life could be longer. I have to actually charge it after I use it instead of just using it for 2 weeks at a time without thinking about charging it. So that's a little annoying. But the other thing is that the battery covers, if you grip it with some firmness, the battery covers can easily slide off. And I fixed that by getting some E6000 adhesive. And I just gooped some E6000 adhesive on the surfaces. And now, boop. And the great thing about E6000 is it is really nice and secure. It's, if you've ever used shoe goo, E6000 is kind of like that. But I'm confident that it will not be a permanent fixture like it would be if I'd used some other adhesive. Like, I don't know what. So I'm pretty confident that if I want to, I can grip down on it and squeeze it off. But it doesn't come off anymore in my hand. So that's nice. It's a good radio. I will be having the iFlight Commando. Is supposedly in the mail. And then I will finally know what the best gamepad style radio today is. The Commando's been in the works for a long damn time. Continuing the super chats. Continuing. Got one more super chat. 100 rupees from Abhishek S. No question. Let's just check and see. Make sure that they didn't. Here we go. Abhishek S. has the same question about LED strips on the Mamba FC. There's two people trying to get LED strip working on the Mamba FC. Abhishek, just in case you missed the earlier question, Abhishek, the first thing I would have you check is that there is a solder bridge on the flight controller that changes whether the flight controller's built-in LED controller or Betaflight is controlling them, and that's the first thing I would check. But we spent like 20 minutes troubleshooting that on a previous super chat, so I'm going to pass on that right this second. Hey, Siati FPV is here. Siati, did you get a chance to weigh in on the previous super chat about motor size on a 3-inch? Let's see. Hope so. Okay, that's all the super chats. We're caught up. Let's continue with the stream. What's the question? There was a super chat, Siati. He asked, I'm working on a 2S 3-inch build. Trying to decide what motor size to go with. Thinking of 1103 from 7 to 8,000 kV. Seen 1104 and 1203. Would they be too large? And my answer was that for a toothpick, you could go to 12 or even 13 millimeters and be fine. And for like a 240 gram freestyle 3-inch, you could easily go up to 14 or 15 millimeters. So no. My answer was they're not too large, was the short answer. But since we didn't know what kind of a build he was, I guess on 2S, it's kind of got to be a toothpick, right? I don't know. Because if it was a heavier freestyle, it would be a 3 or 4S, most likely. Does Loctite damage nylon nuts like props? I don't know. Don't Loctite your prop nuts. Don't do it. I don't know if it damages it. Don't do it, though. Ooh, Siati says I'm dead on. I always feel good when I take a stab at answering a micro question and Siati says I was right. You know, I'm not as like Johnny on the spot. Like you ask me a question about a 5-inch and I'll have an answer for you. But I'm not as Johnny on the spot with motor and prop sizes for micros. Smaller ones. So I always feel good when Siati says I got something right. Let's see here. Arnold Henning wants to know, still trying to dial in his long-range build. What size motors would you recommend for 6-inch long-range? Arnold, if you were talking about 7-inch, there is no question for 7-inch long-range that a 28 to 30 millimeter motor is there are few things in FPV that it seems like people just sort of universally agree on. And this seems to be one of them. That for 7-inch long range, a motor like the FPV Cycle 30 millimeter. Now, I know you said 6-inch. Hang on. The FPV Cycle 30 millimeter or something like the Brother Hobby 2806. That these are just the definitive motors for 7-inch long range. Now, for 5-inch, it's pretty clear that something like 2207 or 2306 is just about like ideal. And maybe up to like a 25 millimeter. I think that if you're trying to build a 6-inch, it's weird because you're a little bit in a middle ground where the most popular 5-inch motors are a little too small. I feel like the FPV Cycle 25 millimeter motor might actually be a really, really good 6-inch motor. Unibells! Unibells are up! Oh my goodness! This Unibell is the ultimate savior of this motor, and also the reason why it's no longer special anymore. Ooh, have I tantalized you? Let me finish answering Arnold's question, and then we'll go from there. So this is probably, it's been argued by some people, Chris Rosser, that this is actually too big for a 5-inch prop. It's overkill. There's no advantage. Bob Ruge obviously disagrees. We're not going to get into that. But I think everybody agrees that this would be actually a really good motor for a 6-inch prop. So we would get, it's got the stator volume. We could go with 1870 kV on 6S and be really, really crushing it. If you wanted to go with another motor that was more widely available, I would be looking at something like a 2208 in size, a little bit bigger than like a typical 5-inch motor. That extra stator volume is going to really help you out. But I think the FPV Cycle 25 millimeter is a compelling choice. So why is the Unibell both the best and the worst thing to happen to the FPV Cycle 25 millimeter motor? This is my opinion. When the FPV Cycle 25 millimeter motor came out, it weighed, the original version of it, like the Emeralds, came in around 36 grams. And at 36 grams, it was very close in weight to many motors that were smaller in volume. So you were essentially getting larger volume, more torque, for not much trade-off. A 2306 for 33 or 34 grams versus a 25 millimeter FPV Cycle motor for 36 grams. That's an amazing, you're getting something there. But if you look at the weight of the 25 millimeter motor, it has crept up. And now the Unibell, and Unibells typically are heavier than two-piece bells. Let's see what the weight has come to. Have they updated the page to show the weight? I don't believe that. They're listing it as 35 grams. I'm skeptical. I think that number's not up to date. I don't think that's right. Because chat, tell me if I'm wrong here. I think 35 grams is what they used to list them at, and I don't think they were 35 grams. Hang on. Do I have one? Oh, I used them all. I used my last spares. Damn it. That sucks. I'm not going to take one off my quad to weigh it, but I don't think they weigh 35 grams. I think that's out of date. Does anybody have a Unibel they can weigh? Anybody in the chat have an FPV Cycle Unibel that they can weigh? I would really like to know. And here's why I say that. Because the success of this motor 100% depends on its weight. This is a good motor. But if it weighs 40 grams or 38 grams, number one, that's a little heavier than I'd like a 5-inch quad motor to be. And number two, it becomes much less interesting compared to something like the Zing 2506 motor, which is also a great motor. But I used to say the Zing 2506 comes in, the KV is too high and it's too heavy. This motor comes in at weight 39 grams, right? But if the FPV Cycle motor is also 39 grams, they're still both good motors, but the FPV Cycle is no longer as unique as it once was. We got a weight here. Boom. Okay. So this is with the full motor wire, 41 grams. Now that's with the full wire. So what is that going to come down to? I think it's going to, when you have the wires at a typical length, to be fair, the FPV Cycle listing says 35 grams with 20 millimeter wires. 20 millimeter wires. I think that's maybe they're 35 grams with 20 millimeter wires, but I mean, how many people have only 2 centimeters of wire, right? Like on a typical build, you're going to have 6 centimeters, maybe more of wire. So I think, and I think this Unibel is heavier than the 2-piece bell, and the second generation 2-piece bell was heavier than the original. So to sum up, the FPV Cycle 25mm is still a great motor, but it's no longer as unique as it was when it actually weighed like 36 grams. Anyway. But I think something like a 1870 kV, 25mm motor, great for 6-inch long range. And if the kV's too high, just use a motor output limit to bring it down. Okay, great question. Henry Pert wants to know, is the GEP-RC Mark IV worth buying? Yeah, it's good. The Mark V has replaced it, and it's better. But if you could find a Mark IV at a good price, it's pretty solid. That's the short version. Spectric, thank you for 40 rupees. I have a problem. When I lift my drone, it goes to one side. That is a pretty open-ended question that is going to be difficult to answer here on the chat. If you're in auto level mode, angle mode, your accelerometer could need to be calibrated. If you're in acro mode, you would want to make sure that your channels were centered. Jeff Schubert, you are not blocked. I see your message. Glad to help. Hunter Bikes, thank you for a $5 super chat. Your question was too long for the super chat, so you put it in a paste bin. I'm not mad. Technically, you're supposed to just give the more you super chat, the longer your question can be. But okay, here we go. I recently switched out my V3 steel motors for the V4 set, and ever since I've switched motors, I've been having issues with my drone. My most recent issue is I just replaced my Holdybro H7 because the OSD chip died on me. Ouch. When plugging and arming, my motors spin, but just before my drone can lift off, the motor's cut out, and it will not arm at all. Okay, just stop there for a second. If you just changed your motors, and as you go to take off, it disarms, probably you've got a motor spinning the wrong direction. When When plugging in a LiPo, the drone will not light up. Okay. The FL light won't light, indicating there's an ESC error. It gets the first stage of the startup beeps, but it doesn't finish the startup beeps. So it goes doot-a-doot, but not doot-doot. Again, that's pointing to a dead flight controller. It's a brand new ESC. I always test the drone with a short stopper. No shorts have shown. Nowhere does it look like I've smoked out. Do you have a dead flight controller? Anytime you get doot-a-doot without the doot-doot, it means your flight controller is not talking to the ESC. Does the flight controller power up from LiPo? That's the first question. Check the pinout of the ESC to the flight controller and make sure it pins out correctly and the VBAT is connected to VBAT. The easiest way to test that is to take a multimeter and check for continuity between the XT60 and ground on the flight controller, and the XT60 and VBAT on the flight controller if you have a VBAT pad. We got a question from It's Blunty. We got to make sure to get that. Jeez. Heck yeah. It's Blunty. We'll get you in a second. Hey, if he's got a question, we got to answer it. So going back to the super chat from Hunter. I would check if the flight controller lights up from USB. If it does not light up from USB, it's definitely dead. And if it was DOA out of the box, then Holy Bro needs to send you another one. I mean, that's the bottom line. But if it seems like the flight controller died after you plugged it in, maybe the pinout is not right. And these are some directions to go with this question. The FL light won't light. The flight controller light doesn't light, indicating there's an ESC error. I mean, it sounds to be like maybe the wiring harness between the ESC and the flight controller is wrong. I mean, if they were mixed brands. It does light up with USB. Checking the pinout as we speak. Okay. Let's go back here and answer Blunty's question. Input from the chat, not necessarily from Joshua. Nevertheless, any idea why I don't always get the full 3-position switch functions in ELRS wide mode? Sometimes only get 2 positions in travel in the configurator. That's an interesting one. Okay, so if you're in wide mode, you should get... I mean, aux 1 is still always going to be a 2-position. But all the others should be... I think it's 128 positions. Blunty, if it were me and I were trying to solve this problem, I would put the potentiometer on the aux channel and I would slowly move it through the whole range of travel and see what it did just to try to get a better idea of what's going on under the hood. And then if I still couldn't get the answer, I would ask on the Express LRS Discord, which I'm sure he's already doing. We got a question here from Orange Jealous FPV. Thank you for a $5 super chat. How do you update the Radix 2 to Betaflight 4.3 RC6? So the thing about the Brain FPV flight controller is they do not use the standard builds of Betaflight. They build their own firmware. And so you can only get firmware for the Radix from the Brain FPV website. So if we select, this is the Radix 2, and the firmware is Betaflight, and we're going to include testing versions, and look right here, RC6 right here. So that's the answer. That's how you do it. Orange Jealous. That's how you do it right there. When we're going to download it, blah, 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 blah. We'll download it and then flash it using load firmware local. We'll go to firmware flasher. You can't see this because I'm on screen. We'll do load firmware local, and we'll load that from our downloads folder. It's not there yet. It hasn't downloaded yet, but that's what you would do. There's a question in the chat about Tom Brady's recent... Is it safe to show that Instagram post, or will you get like a copyright strike? I think Instagram's pretty safe. Tom Brady hits hole in one. Ooh. Tom Brady says this is why you film every shot. So let's see what you guys think. Did Tom Brady fake this? I don't want any sound. I don't want music on the off chance I get copy strike. Okay, so here's what we got. 3, 2, 1, swing. The drone is chasing the golf ball. Now, we know that shots with drones chasing golf balls is a real thing. And then he gets a hole in one, supposedly. Let's look at the drone shot. This is all, there's no reason to think any of this was faked. Drones, we've seen drones chase golf balls. The question is whether it's faked that it was a hole in one. Now, one of the things that makes this suspicious is that Tom Brady, and I'm not really up on Tom Brady news, but what I read, Tom Brady has posted other faked viral videos. Okay? And I do see, like, here's the golf ball, right? If we go, can we, like, go frame by frame? Here's the golf ball. Here's the golf ball. It bounces. And it does, I mean, like, the movement of the ball, you could argue, oh, that looks a little fake. I don't know. Hard to say. It looks maybe a little too clear. I don't know. I don't think you're going to figure this out by pixel peeping. Let's watch it again. This all seems completely legit. Completely legit. That all seems completely legit. The movement of the ball looks realistic. The question is, did they somehow swap in a fake ball? Do you see that bounce? That bounce looks... Does that look fake? The movement of the physics on that does not look real. The way... No. Wow. I mean, this is the first time I've really looked at it. The way that ball responds to gravity looks fake to me. Oh, it's not a hole in one because he's not starting from the tee. Good point. That movement doesn't look real to me. I don't know if I would think that if I hadn't been primed to think it was fake. That bounce, no, that does not look real. Does not look real. I gotta say. The thing is, we as human animals have millions of years of evolution in a gravitational environment with 9.8 meters per second, or what, 3 feet per second? 3.2 meters per second. We know what things look like when they fall and bounce and how they move. It's very difficult to fake that. And that just reads wrong to me. Now, I'm not saying definitively it's fake, but that doesn't look real to me. The way it accelerates and decelerates in that movement. Re at 9, I assume. 9.8 meters per second squared. What's 3.2? 3.2. There's a 3.2 constant. Gravitational constant. My old high school physics teacher. Gravitational acceleration is... Can I just get the value, please? 9.8 meters per second. 32 feet per second. That's it. 9.8 meters per second. Thank you. 32. I knew there was a 3.2. Am I right that the pilot for this was Beverly Hills Aerials? I mean, they would never let on if it was fake. Am I right that it's Beverly Hills Aerials? I think it was. Now, Golf Digest says Tom Brady did not make a hole in one, but I believe they're working on the technicality that he wasn't shooting from the tee. Reaction seems genuine. Nah. I mean, you could just fake a genuine reaction. That's what actors do. It's not in hole in one. You're in the middle of the fairway. Fair enough. But he didn't confirm or deny if the video is real. He has posted other fake videos. I don't know. I think it looks fake to me. It doesn't mean it is fake, but it looks fake. The visibility and size of the golf ball and the way it bounces does not look legit. So if I had to like bet, if you forced me to bet right now, I'd bet that it's fake. That's not the golf ball. Okay. There's not enough reason to fake it, says Andy Cooper. Occam's Razor says it's real. What do you mean? Why did Tom Brady fake all those other viral videos? There's absolutely a reason to fake it. Because getting viral videos is worth money. And it builds his brand. And it gets him publicity. There absolutely is a reason to fake it. That's I mean, Occam's Razor fails that. Occam's Razor says that it's easier to fake than it is to actually hit a hole in run. Or it's not a hole in one. All right, there you go. Continuing with continuing. Orange Jealous, thank you for another $5 super chat. Glad I could help. Michael Truth, thank you for a $2 super chat. Looking for the jumper T-light screen, jumper RC part number 10311. I mean, I can Google it just as well as you can, Michael Truth. I don't have a special source for it. Yeah. All right, for $2, I'll Google it for you. Jumper T-light screen. Spare parts fit for replacement, AliExpress. There's the screen. Boom. There you go, buddy. $5. Michael Truth. Here you go, but that's what you want, I believe. It's $5. You can buy it now. There you go. I guess I was helpful after all. I mean, the way he hit it looked like he was teeing off, but I'm no golfer. Furious. Thank you for a $5 super chat. I had a GPS question I've been struggling with for hours, but I just solved it. Okay, cool. Glad to be here. So instead, besides your yard, what are your favorite places to fly? My favorite places to fly, other than my house, are the beautiful, beautiful office parks of Atlanta. Got to go down and visit Ciotti sometime soon. Yeah. In fact, Ciotti, I just got a cinema rig from Catalyst that I'm going to be checking out. I wish there were a way that you and I could work together to like chase a car. One of us flies the rig and one of us drives the car. I'll shoot you for it. Right? But we'd have to figure out somewhere to drive the car. Sergio Lopez, I have the answer for your question, my friend. Sergio Lopez, what does ESC3YYY mean on BL Heli? It means your flash has been corrupted, but there's a fix. Hang on. Sergio, here's what you need to do. No. There it is. I couldn't remember what my macro was. Here is how to fix that, Sergio. Pause the screen, Sergio, and do these steps. Okay? That will fix it. Ciotti says, I'll drive the car, you fly from the passenger seat. That sounds... I feel like already I will be working hard enough to chase the car. I think what we should do, Ciotti, is you should... that's tough. I was going to say, you should drive the car and I'll fly the drone. And you'll drive my car. And that way, if I hit the car, it's on me. But then if you crash the car, it's on you. But you're probably a better driver than... You're definitely a better driver than I am. And I speculate, well, which is the outcome that is most likely to succeed? Because Ciati is arguably a better pilot. Maybe he's a better pilot than I am. Maybe it's better if maybe I'm a better pilot or driver than I am a Cinewhoop pilot. So Ciati should chase the car and I should drive. Like, I know I could do, some passes around a parking lot without hitting a curb. But could I chase the car without hitting the car? Nah, we'll figure it out. Ciati won't crash the car, though. He's a rock star. Maybe we should take turns and see who gets the better shots. Ciati says I'm a much better driver than I am a pilot. Ciati, is there a parking lot somewhere? Like an empty parking lot we could tear the car around while chasing it with a cinema drone? Like, I know of one parking lot in near my house that's always empty on the weekends, and sometimes I go out there and tear around it. Kmart FPV wants to know what's going on here. Kmart, thank you for being a patron. Let's see if we can we get this? Okay, center monitor. Okay, what's going on here? Well, your shit ain't working. I mean, oh, here we go. Ooh, that is a bad motor or a bad ESC, my friend. I'm so sorry to say. Yeah, the race wire really makes it easy to know when you've got a bad phase. So if you had a bad phase, well, you only have 2 sets of LEDs. There's not one per phase like there was on yeah, that's a bad motor. I'm gonna wager it's a bad motor. Now, since you have race wire, there's a chance that you accidentally bridged you got a solder bridge. So check that there's no solder bridge. That race wire is notoriously hard to solder. Desolder the motor. Check a different motor. Maybe. But yeah, that's a bad motor, or bad ESC, or a solder problem on the race wire. Kmart FPV, that's the answer. Probably the answer. Ciati, do people not know that you used to be a race driving instructor? Ciati is probably a better driver than most of you. Like, no joke. I think what he said was he stopped being an instructor because he was tired of, my words, not his, tired of dumbasses with powerful cars who don't know how to drive trying to kill him. Hey, I just bought an 800 horsepower supercharged Camaro, and I want to do a race driving course. Cool. Halibutification. I have no idea what that name means. I think it's halibut, like a fish. Halibutification asks, how come the 1 watt transmitter sends data and the 0.4 gram EP1 sends LQ feedback without being 1 watt? Okay, there's 2 reasons for that halibutification. The first is that the telemetry transmission is much lower data rate. And all else being equal, a lower data rate signal will have longer range than a higher data rate signal at the same output power. But the other thing is that the telemetry range will run out first. So as you're flying away, at some point, you will get telemetry lost, even though you still have full control over the quad and are not fail-safing. So that's the answer, halibutification. Ciati says he just ran out of money. Okay, fair enough. Motorsports is expensive. Anybody who says that FPV is expensive needs to spend 1 weekend in motorsports. Because, like, you'll just blow an $800 set of frickin' tires. 1 day at the track. Brakes, done. Tires, done. $1,500, $2,000. Done. That's like 1 weekend at the track. Obviously, you can do it cheaper, but I'm just saying. FPV is so cheap compared to motorsports. People are like, you should track your car, Bardwell. I'd love to track my car. That'd be fun. I mean, it'd be fun. Never mind what you pay to actually, you know, get on the track. But I'm not sure that... I'm not sure. I'd rather just tear around a parking lot on a Sunday afternoon and then go home. Michael Carson, thanks for a $5 super chat. Thanks to It's Plenty for helping me migrate my jumper to my new TX16S. Done in under an hour. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Today at 12:20 p.m., It's Plenty asked me, hey, do you know the right way to migrate HTX? Will they just auto-convert? And I was like, well, here's what I would do. We make a good team, me and Plenty. Oh my God, we got some bots. Hang on, I'm gonna. Oh, good, the users. Good job. Hide user on channel. That's the correct response, Ciati. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike Crabtree, for a $2 super chat. Thank you, AOI Pyro, for a $2 super chat. Thoughts on the iFlight 5-inch Titan versus the Flywoo 5-inch Mr. Croc? I don't adore either of those. The Titan is durable for beginners, but heavy. Between the two, I would probably take the Titan with the understanding that it's designed to be durable and heavy and not the best flying. But I would probably take the Titan over the Croc. The Mr. Croc is not really my favorite. Andy Cooper argues that if they were going to fake a hole-in-one, they would have faked a better hole-in-one. I could see that. I could see that. How far can I fly with a 200 milliwatt Sharkbite VTX, asks Baskin FPV. Baskin, there are way too many variables to just throw you out a number. I'm going to look and see, like if we look at Wesley Vardy, did Wesley Vardy test at 200 milliwatts? Wesley Vardy on Reddit tested HD0 with a 1 watt VTX. Did he test at 200 milliwatts though? Some salty commenters. Jeez. Let's just see if I can find the... Hi, Wesley Vardy. Let's see if I can find the final results. Here we go. This is HD0 at 500 milliwatts. So at 500 milliwatts with low gain antennas, he got 10 kilometers of flyable range. Since a 6 dB change is, let's see, 3 dB is, I think, 1.4x, and 6 dB is 2x. So if we take 10 divided by 1.4, by that logic, at 250 milliwatts, you should get about 7 kilometers of flyable range. But that's under ideal conditions. He's flying straight up in the sky with plenty of clearance, no obstacles. In reality, you're going to get significantly less than that, because in reality, you're going to be flying close to the ground, near obstacles, and so forth. ON6ZG, 3 dB is double the power, but not double the range. Because of the inverse square law, you need a 6 dB gain in power to double your range. So I think 3 dB, the ratio is 1.4, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So yeah, with a 200 milliwatt VTX, under ideal conditions, you might get 6 or 7 kilometers. In reality, you're going to get significantly less. And as soon as you add any obstacles, it all depends on the obstacle, and it has nothing to do with the range. Cell Therapy, thanks for a $5 super chat. Love you, JB. One of your old vids helped me out yesterday. Keep it good, sir. Thank you so much, Cell Therapy. I always leave those old videos up just in case they're still helpful. Bad motor for the win. Kmart FPV confirms. Bad motor. Glad to have helped solve that. It was the motor. Thanks, Kmart, for another $5. Appreciate you. Can I use a 5-inch for long range, asks Arnold Henning, or is it too small? Arnold, the larger the prop you use, all else being equal, the more efficient the quad will be and the better flight time you'll get. Spinning a small prop at a high RPM is less efficient than spinning a large prop at a slow RPM to generate the same amount of thrust. So 5-inch, most people would consider it to be too small for long range. If you were going to do a 5-inch long range build, you would need to reduce the weight as much as possible. A typical freestyle build is going to come in around 650 to 750 grams, all up weight as flown, and it's going to have a flight time around, say, 6 or 7 minutes if you were super gentle on the throttle and used a large battery. You're not going to get very far in 6 or 7 minutes. But if you go with a 5-inch, a lightweight 5-inch, you could get that weight down in the 400 or 500 gram range. And now you're going to get much longer flight time, perhaps in the 15 or 20 minute range. And that's starting to get into the range of what people would consider to be, maybe if not long range, maybe medium range. So if you're serious about building a long range rig, the first question you might ask yourself is, do I want to build a heavier long range rig like a 7-inch? And you'll have more flexibility to carry a GoPro. You'll put a big chunky battery on there and you'll fly for 30 minutes maybe. Or do I want to have a little bit more of a challenge and build a lightweight 5-inch rig? You could build a 4-inch rig that, like the Flywoo Explorer, can fly for 20 minutes on the right battery. And you know, it's a little 4-inch quadcopter. It could go super far. So there's no reason you can't do long range on a 5-inch, but most people, when they think long range, the place their mind would go would be a larger quad like a 7-inch. Squirrely, thank you for a $2 super chat. How long can I leave my batteries charged? The answer is that it's cumulative. Mike Crabtree, I disagree with you. Mike Crabtree says a month at full charge won't hurt. You may not notice the difference. And if you don't notice the difference, then more power to you. But every increment of time that battery is not at its nominal voltage, its storage charge, every increment of time that battery is fully charged or empty, it's taking damage. It's slowly, there's a chemical process. I don't know the details of the process, but slowly it is degrading its performance. And so over the lifetime of the battery, it will spend a certain amount of time at full charge, and its performance will degrade. If you leave a battery at full charge for 30 days, I saw one test. There's only really one test I've ever seen that tried to quantify this. They concluded about a 5% reduction in performance after 30 days at full charge. So how long until you storage charge your batteries? Well, it just depends. If you say that my batteries will have a total of, let's say, 60 days, 60 full days, 24-hour days at full charge over their lifespan, then how often would you, how long would it take for that to happen if you never storage charge them? How long would that take to happen if you put them at storage charge after 1 day or 2 days? How long is the battery going to live until you just blow it up from crashing it into a wall? If you're the kind of person who just blows up your batteries after a month because you crash them into a bando, then don't bother storage charging them. It doesn't matter, right? But if you want your batteries to last the longest, you should storage charge them. Personally, I think if I charge them up and then I don't fly them for a day, then maybe after the second or third day, I'll storage charge them. But there's no single answer. It's cumulative. XDo Gaming and More says, in your opinion, is an OG BL Heli ESC still flyable? XDo, it will fly, but I've seen situations where modern flight controllers, when paired with really old ESCs, the quad literally just, it literally won't even hover because the ESC is so non-responsive that the PID controller can't handle it. So I would not say that an old BLE 16-bit ESC is not flyable, but I would say that I would do everything in my power to realistically get a modern ESC. Orange Jealous, thank you for a $5 super chat. Do you know what happened to Chad Nowak? I don't want to. I don't. My impression is that he decided he wanted to go back to being, like, I think he got back into being a glider pilot. He's posted some gliding. He used to be a gliding instructor. And he posted some gliding content after he seemed to stop posting FPV content. I know that he expressed a lot of frustration at points with the direction that FPV culture was going, with the focus on monetization and the entrance of bigger money. And he personally had some disagreements with some people in FPV who he felt had done him wrong. And I think my impression is that at a certain point he just got fed up with it and was like, F this for a lark, I'm going to go do something else with my life. But I don't know that, like, personally. I wouldn't, that's just my impression from public posts he made. Him and Sharpoo, right? I think he always had a lot of conflict and he seemed to have really high standards for how he wanted people to treat him and to treat each other. And it seemed like he was regularly frustrated by people not living up to his standards. And that eventually led him to just decide he didn't want to be in FPV anymore. Yeah. I mean, he seemed to me like a person who drove himself crazy by sort of painting himself into an ethical corner that was neither productive for him. And in some cases, it seemed to me to even be not even internally consistent. Like he really objected to most of the ways in which people made money in FPV. That people who were making money in FPV, it seemed to me like he felt like a lot of them were sort of selling out and not sort of like true. But at the same time, he struggled with not being fairly compensated for his work in FPV. And I was never able to really reconcile those two things. Like, it seemed to me like there was a very, very narrow definition for the kind of things that were okay by his values to do and to be paid for. And he did those things. So his decisions about what he did for work and how he wanted to be compensated were obviously okay with him. As is usually the case. Most people, abide by their own sort of moral code. But when I looked at what seemed like were his values, it seemed like he really struggled a lot because he had created this extremely restrictive way in which it was okay for anybody to get paid. And it meant that a lot of times he was unable to accept compensation for work that I think he could have fairly been compensated for, but he would have seen it as being a sellout and he wouldn't do it. So it seemed to me like he was constantly struggling with everyone in FPV is a sellout and big money is coming in and ruining the culture. And also I can't get fairly compensated for my work. So how am I supposed to, do this? And I'm like, well, bro, if you just lightened up like 15%, you could be fine. but he's not the kind of guy to lighten up 15%. He's the kind of guy to go off on top of a mountain and just flog himself and try to find the truths of life. That's how I read it. He is in some ways, I think, an ascetic. Which is fine if you want to go up on a mountain and flog yourself and eat bread and drink water and, be one with, and find the truths of life. That's fine. But I think he was also often angry that other people didn't want to join him on the mountain. And saw that as a failing of them and their culture. And then was frustrated by that and ended up with him leaving FPV. Anyway. That really, I don't know where that conversation went, but yeah, it's tough. I mean, he was hugely passionate, and so I think it's a loss to FPV that he's no longer part of our culture. He was hugely passionate, and I've known people like him, who I think were like him, who had extremely high expectations for themselves and everyone around them to the point where it becomes destructive to themselves and their own happiness. And that's how I read it. But other people would probably say that the rest of us don't have high enough standards, and he was right. So we're talking about Chad Nowak, Final Glide. Anyway. I got to meet him at a quad camp. He was a good dude. And Elephantum, thank you for a $5 super chat. Before I get that super chat, we're about 5 minutes from the end of the stream. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming at 3 p.m. right when I go off. So he's going to start posting the link. And if you want to keep hanging out and watching his stream, by all means. But stick around for another 5 minutes while we finish out the last couple super chats. What's your opinion of the Catalyst Machine Works Bangod for 5-inch? Love the looks of it. Is it really more durable than, say, an Apex? It's hard to imagine something being more durable than an Apex. It's pretty durable. The Bangod is durable. The downside of the Bangod is that when it breaks, it has a lot of fiddly parts. I think you really have to know that you want the Bangod, and it will just appeal to like your sensibilities. If you look at the Apex and you go, just another school bus frame, and you really want something unique, the Bangod is a good frame. But those simple school bus style frames, top plate, bottom plate, arms, their design has been refined to the point where they're pretty much as durable as anything could be. Backroad FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Thank you for giving me the pronunciation of your username as well. Does the top of the T on my Express LRS antenna need to be straight to each other, or can they be 90 degrees? No. The Express LRS antennas are supposed to be straight. Don't put them in a 90 degree. I don't know why you would. I don't know what you're thinking of doing, but it needs to be straight. That's how it wants to be. Zero Mode, thank you for 5 Swiss francs. Thanks you for the many helpful videos and live streams. Thank you so much, Zero Mode, for your super chat. The Bangod gets heavy too. The Bangod, they released a lightened version of it, but it's just a heavy frame. I feel like Catalyst Machine Works, their best frames have been their really cool racing frames, like the America, I think is a really, really interesting and cool frame. And then when they get up into Cinelifter stuff, that crazy it feels like Neil Whiteley in some ways is a descendant of Carroll Shelby, that he's just got this very few people in the world truly embody the spirit of Carroll Shelby, but Neil Whiteley, he's just like, how big of a motor can we put on this SOB to make it rip? And in some ways it feels like his talents are wasted on 5-inch quads. Because down at the 5-inch size, you have to be really careful about weight to get the best performance. And it's not to say that when you get to the Cinelifters, you don't have to be careful about weight. But it feels like the complexity and performance of a Cinelifter is more sort of in tune with Neil Whiteley and Catalyst Machine Works sensibilities than a 5-inch. I think that it's great that they've started really excelling in the Cinelifter market. Because when you've got a Cinelifter, you can just put a big honking motor on there and just, add all the power. And that complexity of the frame it makes sense in a Cinelifter. Whereas on a 5-inch quad, if you have more than like 10 frame plates, 10 pieces of your frame, it's like, well, what are you doing there? Anyway. All right, folks, we are going to wrap up. Thank you, Super Deluxe, for a $5 super chat. Just want to say hi and love you. Thank you so much, Super Deluxe, for the support and the kind words. We're going to wrap up here. Aaron Ciotti is going to start streaming, and he's posting the link. Sunday Q&A. If you want to ask some questions about micros, or you just prefer your answers to have more swearing, Ciotti will be streaming. He's posting the link to his stream. We're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much for coming out. I will see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. for the next stream and throughout the week. Happy flying, everybody. Have a great stream, Ciotti, and have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye, everybody.